Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the REM Services Virtual Job Fair event. I would like to introduce you to Marla. Marla will tell you about her company, job openings, and how to apply for those openings. Marla?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Marla Williams. I am the operations manager for REM Services Incorporated. REM Services, we are a staffing company and we work in partnership with First Transit. There are two positions that we are hiring for. One is the service worker position, it's a utility aid service worker position. And Daniel, you can go ahead and put that job description up. And the utility aides, they are responsible for cleaning the vehicles for First Transit. So on site, there are vehicles that are driven by First Transit drivers. Those are separate positions. Those individuals pick up persons for their medical appointments. And when they return back to the facility, to the garage, then the utility aides clean those vehicles inside and outside and sanitize them. They also will fuel them. And then there might be some other light maintenance work that needs to be done around the facility. Next, there's also the job description of the mechanics. Dan, if you would please put that position up. The auto mechanic job description, the mechanics also are responsible for the overall maintenance of the vehicles. Under some circumstances, the vehicles will leave the garage to be maintained outside of the facility. However, our mechanics do most of the mechanical work on those vehicles. And so there is a preference for those positions that you do have some certifications. And as you can see, as it's scrolling down, that some of the components of engine components, suspension and steering exhaust, brakes, that all of that is helpful in making sure that you are a good candidate to be a mechanic for these positions. We can discuss offline the pay for the mechanic position because it does depend on the experience as well as your level of certifications that you have. As far as utility aides, the utility aides are paid $14 an hour for those positions. Now, REM Services, we are, as I mentioned, a staffing company, and we work in partnership with First Transit. Both of these positions are full-time, and that means they include medical, dental, and vision benefits, as well as a 401k plan, and as well as sick and vacation time. Sick time is 40 hours a week, and vacation time is 40 hours a week, which is earned on the first year anniversary. But however, the second year, there is 80 hours of vacation after that. And some holidays. There's approximately about 8 holidays that comes with those benefits. If there's any questions, you can ask me questions now, or as you see on the virtual booth, I include my phone number, which is 800-451-9736, extension 804, or my email is mwilliams@rsi-us.com. And I can go ahead and take any questions that you may have if anyone has any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Marla. And as Marla stated, if you do have any questions for her regarding employment with REM Services, please feel free to enter those into the chat and we'll get those answered for you ASAP. In the meantime, Marla, while we're waiting for some questions in the chat from our job seekers, I do have some general questions that I'd like to ask you. If you'd be able to stick around and answer a few of those.
Sure.
Fantastic. So Marla, can you kind of elaborate on how long your hiring process typically takes? from the point of submitting an application to actually being extended that official offer for hire?
Okay, so typically about a week to a week and a half, um, because there is a requirement for a drug screen, a background report, and a motor vehicle report. So while we're waiting on that information to be returned, it's about a week turnaround to about a week and a half. Depends on sometimes the where the information is being searched from. It could take a little longer. So usually no longer than 2 weeks from the time that the person is interviewed, offered the position under the conditions that their background comes back clear, as well as the drug screen and the motor vehicle report. The motor vehicle report is required for both positions, and that's because as a utility aide, you will be responsible for moving the vehicles in and out of the garage. And then obviously as a mechanic, you would be responsible for also um, driving the vehicles.
Understood. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Marla. Next question that I have for you is, are there any sort of minimum education requirements that folks would need to possess to uh, have one of these positions?
Yes, high school or equivalents. So a high school graduate or diploma or the equivalents.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marla. And another question that I have for you is one that is at the forefront of a lot of folks' minds right now, and that is COVID safety precautions, and then any sort of um, other special accommodations that you might provide for folks in regards to that. So do you do things such as virtual interviewing, things of that nature?
Yes, we can do a virtual interview. Um, Typically, I will actually have a phone conversation, so phone interview first, and then the maintenance manager with First Transit does the second interview. And those typically are done in person, however, because these positions are very hands-on. So there is a requirement on the site that everyone wears a mask. So the masks are worn at all times, and the company does provide the mask, so that's not an issue, as well as the hand sanitizer as well. But for the second interview, the maintenance manager does have an interview done in person because, like I said, there is no avoidance of coming into the on site to perform your job.
Understood. Thank you for that, Marla. The next question I have for you regarding these two positions is, would you be able to kind of elaborate more on what the shift structure is for them? Is it, are these night shift positions, day shift positions? Do you operate shifts for both? And when do those shifts typically start?
Yes. So the shifts are typically going to be afternoon, somewhere between 12 and up to about 9:30 in the evening, um, because they're already, the other shifts are already covered. And this is what we need right now, is that mid-afternoon up to about, like I said, 9:30 in the evening.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Marla. And we'll go ahead and take a brief pause right here. If you have just joined the session and you do have any questions for Marla regarding employment for or with REM services, please feel free to enter those questions into the chat and we'll get those answered for you as soon as possible. Marla, moving on with some of the questions that I have for you. How can a candidate stand out and get an interview assuming they are qualified for the position in which they are applying?
Well, first of all, you want to contact me so that we can have a phone interview. And again, submitting your resume so that I can review some of your qualifications. Um, Basically, we just want a good employee. We want to see that you have a good work history. And but the skill set, we just need to make sure that you are able to have the physical ability, to be able to perform the job, as far as, because you will be cleaning vehicles. So beyond that, um, I can review the resume, and we can do an interview, and we'll see how things go from there.
Excellent. Thank you, Marla. And we did have a few folks join a little bit late, so they might have missed, you covering some of the benefits that are offered. But
Sure.
can you kind of go ahead and do so once more, just some of the standard benefits that your organization offers? And if there are any particular fringe benefits that you might want to highlight, you can do so as well.
Sure. So the positions, both positions are full time, and all full time employees do receive benefits. So for the paid time off, that is 40 hours of vacation time. That's the first year, but it isn't earned, or you don't receive it until your first year anniversary. And then that does increase on the second year anniversary, it goes up to 80 hours. Then there's also sick time, and that's 40 hours a year, which never increases. It's always 40 hours a year. And then there's also medical, dental, and vision benefits. Um, where the employer pays, some portion, and the employee, pays a portion for that. And then there is a 401k plan as well, and um, life insurance.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Marla. Much appreciated. And Marla, can you kind of elaborate, would training, be paid? Would that time be training, or, would training time be paid, excuse me? And then do you guys offer any sort of things such as like continuing education expenses? That's a question that I get quite a bit on my job fairs as well.
Yes. So on the first day of training, it is a classroom setting. So it's 1 week of training in the classroom. And then you'll job shadow for about a week after that. And then as far as the mechanics, yes, First Transit does provide um, some additional assistance with obtaining or retaining certification.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Marla. Another question that I do get quite frequently, and I know some HR reps or hiring folks have difficulty answering it, but maybe you might be able to give a little bit more insight into that. The question is regarding the background checks: would misdemeanors or minor offenses be, excluding factors for folks that would want to apply for these jobs?
It depends on the misdemeanor. I can tell you specifically, anything that has to do with drugs automatically disqualifies you.
Understood. Thank you for that, Marla. And I'll just go ahead and take a brief pause here once more. If you do have any more specific questions that you'd like to ask Marla regarding employment with REM services, please feel free to enter those into the chat, and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Marla, can you kind of elaborate on how a candidate can stand out and get an interview, assuming they're qualified for the positions in which they're applying?
The standing out, like I said, would be your work history, showing that you are able to that you've been on particular jobs for a certain amount of time, that there's some stability there, which shows that kind of stands out to show that you have had some consistency. You don't move around a lot, and which shows that shows kind of like you're a good employee, because you maintain some employment for a length of time, and you learn a particular skill set, or particular job before you move on to somewhere else.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Marlon. We did receive a question in the chat. This individual asked, what is the starting salary? I'm assuming you could probably cover one of those positions, like you said earlier, but maybe not the other. If you want to just give a little bit of background on that.
Yes.
For that individual.
So the utility aides, that position begins at 14 or is $14 an hour. For the mechanics, that is something to be discussed, because of the different certifications and different experiences that come with that job. So that's going to vary. But however, I think it starts out at 21 an hour for the mechanics.
Excellent. Thank you, Marla. And for the folks that are on the call, I know there was two separate positions that you covered, but can you kind of elaborate on what a typical day might look like for the folks, assuming that they, are offered that position for hire?
Sure. So when a driver returns with a vehicle to the garage, then the utility aid, the first thing they're going to do, there is a gas pump that's on site. So, because the vehicle will need to be refueled. And so they will bring the vehicle in and refuel the vehicle. And either that vehicle will be parked outside on the parking lot or it will be brought into the garage. There's a rotation system that they use, and that's the purpose of that. And then, but the utility aids will then, based on that rotation system, clean the vehicles. They recently have built a car wash, automatic car wash in the garage. So now instead of hand washing, which they had been doing up to this point, which they used to use the pole with the sponge on the end of it to wash. And I would imagine, like, let's say if the machine were to break down, I'm sure that that's what they would go back to using. But essentially, you would drive through the car wash and clean the outside of it. And then the inside needs to be cleaned and sanitized, especially because of COVID now. So there are materials and solutions that are provided by the company, and gloves and washcloths that you would wipe down the inside of the vehicle and sanitize it, and then park the vehicle. And then as far as mechanics, that's a never ending job with having vehicles in and out on the road every day, several hours a day. Their vehicles are always going to need the maintenance. So it just depends on, what issues are going on with those particular vehicles. And once the mechanics clear them, then they go back into the rotation.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Marla. And Marla, I do have one final question for you. That question is, what are the opportunities for advancement within your organization? And are there any particular success stories that you would like to highlight for folks that are on the call?
So we're a staffing company, which means we recruit and we hire for First Transit. Now, so First Transit, I have had people who, when First Transit has like a supervisor's position that comes open or something, that they have taken on that employee as their employee so that they could um, then go into that position. So that is an option there if First Transit has that available. However, as a REM employee, like I said, we're in partnership with them, so we contract with them, and so we're not a temp agency. So you are a full-fledged employee, but the extent of our contract with them is to the extent that those two positions.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Marla. And again, that will conclude the questions that I have for you. If anyone does have any questions for Marla that they'd like answered before the session ends today, please feel free to enter those in the chat and we'll get those answered for you. In the meantime, Marla, I do want to give you one final opportunity to give any sort of summary statements or concluding remarks that you would like to before we wrap up our session here today. Again, it can be even something that you would like to just highlight for the folks that were on the call or for the folks who might have joined a little bit late.
Sure. So again, as a staffing company, we do recruit and we hire for First Transit, and which means you come on as a full-fledged employee. You would not be in a temporary status. You would be a full-fledged, full-time employee with benefits. And we welcome you to come aboard. Again, you can contact me at 800-451-9736, and that's extension 804. Or you can send me an email, mwilliams@rsi-us.com. And I look forward to being able to interview you and potentially be able to bring you on board.
Excellent. Thank you for your presentation today, Marla. And there is just one final thing that I'd like to note for the folks that are on the call. That is, this session has been recorded. It will be uploaded to the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel later today. Once that has been completed, we will be linking it to the virtual job fair booth as well that you see on your screen. Point being here is if you want to go back and reference this video at any time during the application process, you can do so to get any sort of information that you might need to help you fill those out. Again, thank you all for joining today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.